If you eat healthy but still feel puffy, tight, or gassy, it's not in your head. Bloating is often a mismatch between a food's reputation and how your gut actually handles it. And the frustrating part is, you can be doing everything right and still feel uncomfortable after meals. The goal isn't to fear food. It's to spot the common triggers and swap them for options that digest more smoothly. In many cases, the issue is fermentation. Certain carbs get broken down by gut bacteria and create extra gas. In other cases, it's volume, fiber type, sugar alcohols, or even how fast you eat. So we're going through 7 foods that look like the healthiest choices in the store, yet can cause bloating for a lot of people. For each one, you'll get a simple eat this instead option. And you'll also learn how to test your own tolerance without guessing. Let's start with the big picture of what bloating really is. Moving to slide 2. Bloating usually comes from 3 buckets. First is gas, either swallowed air from eating fast or gas produced when bacteria ferment certain carbs. Second is fluid shifts. Some foods pull water into the gut, which can feel like distension even without much gas. Third is motility, how quickly food moves through you. If things slow down, pressure builds. If things move too fast, you can get cramping and urgency. A key idea here is FODMAPs. That's a group of fermentable carbs found in many healthy foods like certain fruits, dairy, grains, and legumes. You don't need to memorize the acronym. Just know that some people absorb these carbs poorly and bacteria take over. Another big factor is fiber. Fiber is great, but the type and dose matter. Jumping from low fiber to very high fiber overnight can cause temporary bloating. Finally, portion size changes everything. A food can be fine at a small serving and miserable at a large one. Keep these levers in mind as we go through the 7 foods. Moving to slide 3. Food number 1 is beans and lentils. They're high in protein, minerals, and fiber, so they're often seen as a perfect clean food. The bloating problem comes from specific fibers and carbs that humans don't fully digest, especially galacto-oligosaccharides. Your gut bacteria love them, and that fermentation can create a lot of gas. The effect is very dose-dependent. A half cup might be fine, while a big bowl can feel like a balloon. What to eat instead depends on your goal. If you want a similar protein boost with less fermentation, try fern tofu or tempeh. They're made from soy too, but processing lowers the fermentable carbs. If you want legumes, you can also improve tolerance by choosing canned lentils or chickpeas, rinsing them well, and starting with small portions. Another option is split red lentils. They tend to be easier for many people. The takeaway is not beans are bad, it's beans are powerful, and your gut may need a ramp-up period. Moving to slide 4. Food number 2 is cruciferous vegetables. Think broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. These are nutrient-dense and linked with great health outcomes, but they're also famous for gas. 2 things drive it. One is fiber and raffinose-type carbs that ferment. The other is sulfur-containing compounds, which can make the gas smell stronger. Raw versions are often the worst because the structure is tougher and you chew less thoroughly. What to eat instead? If you want the same green vegetable habit with less bloating, try zucchini, spinach, cucumber, or carrots. If you love crucifers, change the preparation. Cooking helps a lot. Steaming, roasting, or sautéing breaks down structure and can reduce the load on digestion. Also, keep the serving realistic. A small side of cooked broccoli may feel fine, while a huge raw salad base of shredded cabbage may not. And if you're increasing fiber overall, add these slowly so your gut bacteria adapt instead of getting overwhelmed. Moving to slide 5. Food number 3 is apples and pears. They're seen as the ultimate healthy snack. Portable, high in fiber, and full of antioxidants. But they're also high in fructose and sorbitol, which are common bloating triggers for people with sensitive digestion. If those sugars aren't absorbed well in the small intestine, they pull water into the gut and then get fermented in the colon. That can mean both distension and gas. What to eat instead? Many people do better with berries, citrus, grapes, or kiwi in moderate portions. Another trick is to change the form. Cooking fruit can make it easier to tolerate because it softens the fiber structure. Portion still matters. Half an apple might be fine, while a large apple on an empty stomach might not be. And pairing fruit with a little protein can slow the digestive rush, and reduce symptoms for some people. The main point is simple. Healthy fruit isn't one category. Your gut reacts to specific sugars. Moving to slide 6. Food number 4 is dairy, especially milk and regular yogurt. Dairy is marketed as a gut health staple because of calcium and probiotics. But if you're lactose intolerant, even mildly, lactose can ferment and cause bloating, gas, and discomfort. Lactose intolerance is common, and it can increase with age. Here's the confusing part. You might tolerate some dairy but not others. Hard cheeses often have very little lactose. Kefir and some yogurts can be easier because bacteria break down some lactose, but it varies a lot by brand and serving size. What to eat instead? If you want the protein, try lactose-free milk or lactose-free Greek yogurt. If you want a non-dairy option, choose an unsweetened plant yogurt with added protein, and keep an eye on added gums if those bother you. Another simple approach is to test your tolerance. Take a week with lactose-free choices and see if your bloating changes. That's data you can use, not a lifetime label. Moving to slide 7. Food number 5 is protein bars and healthy snack bars. They look like a smart choice. High protein, low sugar, convenient. The bloating issue is usually the ingredient list. Many bars use sugar alcohols like erythritol, sorbitol, maltitol, or xylitol to keep sweetness without sugar. For a lot of people, those sweeteners are poorly absorbed and can cause gas and water shifts. Bars can also pack in chicory root fiber or inulin, which is a prebiotic fiber. Prebiotics can be great, but in high doses, they can feel like a balloon pump. What to eat instead? Build a simpler snack with fewer variables. Try a small portion of nuts with a piece of low FODMAP fruit, or a boiled egg with rice cakes, or plain Greek yogurt if you tolerate it. If you still want bars, choose ones without sugar alcohols and with a shorter ingredient list. Convenience is fine. Moving to slide 8. Food number 6 is sparkling water and other carbonated zero-calorie drinks. This one surprises people because it's not about digestion chemistry. It's physics. Carbonation adds gas to your stomach and intestines, and if you're already sensitive, that extra volume can feel like instant bloating. Some people also swallow more air when sipping fizzy drinks quickly. If the drink is sweetened with sugar alcohols, you get a double hit: carbonation plus fermentation. What to eat instead? If you want something refreshing, try still water with a squeeze of lemon or lime, iced herbal tea, or diluted juice if you tolerate it. If you love sparkling water, treat it like a dose. Have it with food, sip slowly, and see what amount feels fine. For many people, one small can is okay, but multiple servings stack up. The key is to notice timing. If you bloat within minutes, carbonation is a prime suspect. Moving to slide 9. Food number 7 is whole grains, especially wheat-heavy choices like whole wheat bread, bran cereal, and some high-fiber wraps. Whole grains can be great for heart health and regularity, but they can also be rough on a sensitive gut. The two common culprits are fructans, which are fermentable carbs found in wheat, and the sheer fiber dose, especially from added bran. If you go from low fiber to a big bowl of bran, bloating is a predictable outcome. What to eat instead? Many people do better with oats, quinoa, rice, or sourdough bread, which can be easier to digest for some because of fermentation. Another strategy is to reduce the fiber spike. Choose moderate fiber whole grains and increase slowly while drinking enough fluids. Also, watch the stack. If you eat wheat at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the total load may be the issue. You're not failing at healthy eating. Moving to slide 10. Now let's make this practical, because the biggest mistake is cutting out a long list of foods without a plan. Start with pattern recognition. Ask, does the bloating happen fast, within 30 minutes, or later, a few hours after eating? Fast bloating often points to carbonation, swallowed air, or high-volume meals. Later bloating often points to fermentation from FODMAPs or fiber overload. Next, simplify one variable at a time. Pick one suspected food and swap it for a gentler alternative for 7 days. Keep the rest of your routine steady. That way you learn something. Also pay attention to portion and preparation. Cooked versus raw can be the difference between fine and miserable. And don't ignore speed. Eating quickly, talking while eating, and chewing poorly can add a surprising amount of air. If you want a simple baseline, Build meals around a protein you tolerate, a low FODMAP carb like rice or potatoes, and a cooked vegetable. Moving to slide 11. Let's talk about eat this instead as a general strategy, not just a list. If legumes bloat you, your swap is usually a cleaner protein with less fermentation. Eggs, fish, chicken, firm tofu, or lactose-free Greek yogurt if tolerated. If cruciferous vegetables bloat you, your swap is often cooked, lower FODMAP vegetables like zucchini, carrots, bell peppers, or spinach. If fruit is the trigger, choose fruits that are easier for many people, like berries, oranges, or kiwi, and keep the portion moderate. If wheat-heavy whole grains are the issue, rotate in oats, rice, quinoa, or sourdough. And if bars and sweeteners are the issue, go back to simple snacks with short ingredient lists. The point is to keep your nutrition strong while lowering the digestive workload. You're not removing healthy foods. You're choosing the version your gut can actually use. That's what sustainable eating looks like. Moving to slide 12. 2 quick factors can amplify bloating even when the food choice is decent. First is meal size and speed. A very large healthy meal, huge salad, lots of raw veg, beans, fruit, can overload your gut simply by volume. Try the same ingredients in a smaller portion and see what happens. Second is stress and posture. Your gut and nervous system are tightly linked. When you're rushed, your body shifts away from digestion. That can change motility and sensitivity, so normal gas feels more uncomfortable. A simple fix is to slow the first 5 bites, chew more, and keep meals seated and calm when possible. Also consider timing. If you eat a high-fiber meal late and then lie down soon after, pressure can feel worse. None of this is about perfection. It's about stacking small advantages. When you combine a better tolerated food choice with better pacing, many people notice a meaningful change in comfort. Moving to slide 13. If you want a simple low-bloat day to test your baseline, here's a template you can adapt. For breakfast, think eggs with oats or lactose-free Greek yogurt with berries, depending on what you tolerate. For lunch, a rice bowl with a protein and cooked vegetables like carrots and zucchini is usually gentle. For dinner, potatoes or quinoa with fish or tofu and sautéed spinach is another solid option. Snacks can be simple. A banana if you tolerate it, a handful of nuts, or a cheese portion if lactose isn't an issue. Notice what's missing here. There's nothing extreme. It's just lower in common fermentable triggers and lower in surprise additives. Run a baseline for a few days, then reintroduce one healthy trigger food at a normal portion. If symptoms jump, you've learned something useful. If nothing changes, that's also useful, because your bloating may be more about timing, stress, or another ingredient you haven't considered yet. Moving to slide 14. One more important note. Persistent bloating isn't always just a food problem. If you have severe pain, unexplained weight loss, blood in stool, ongoing diarrhea or constipation, or symptoms that wake you at night, those are reasons to get checked. Also, if bloating is constant no matter what you eat, it can point to issues like constipation, pelvic floor dysfunction, or other gut conditions that need individualized care. For many people, though, the win is simply reducing the biggest triggers and keeping the rest of the diet enjoyable. So here's your recap. Beans and lentils can ferment heavily. Try tofu or smaller portions. Cruciferous vegetables can be rough raw. Cook them or swap veggies. Apples and pears can trigger fructose and sorbitol issues. Try berries or citrus. Dairy can be a lactose problem. Use lactose-free options. Protein bars can hide sugar alcohols. Choose simpler snacks. Sparkling water adds gas. Dose it. Whole grains can be a fiber and fructan load. Rotate grains and increase slowly. If you want more videos like this, subscribe. And for a quick check-in, comment, which one hits you hardest? Beans or apples? This information is not a substitute